besides engaging them, I think one of the big keys is giving them the confidence that they made the right choice to be here.
Something's going on here. I'm not exactly sure what it is. And could you guys kind of give me a clue so that we can either.
You never know where someone is how someone is going to feel when they finally sign on the dotted line and cross over to the other side of the fence to see if the grass is greener. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Kirkpatrick podcast. It is Vanessa and Jim. Jim,
Hi,
how
everybody.
are you? So today's session is going to be all about levels 1 and 2. So this is not to be confused with level 3, but this is part 3 of the employee engagement and performance series, where we're talking about how you can apply the model to employee engagement. But first, we have the Kirkpatrick update. So we have just finished our webinar on the Kirkpatrick model and AI. That replay is now available and will be listed in the show notes for you to catch that. The other replay we don't want you to miss is the Are You Doing Kirkpatrick Right webinar. That was a really great, engaging webinar that really helped to dispel some of the myths of the model. Don't forget, we also have access for you to our Kirkpatrick community, and you do not need to be previously certified in order to come in and join us and be amongst your peers in a very supportive community. And you asked for it, so of course we gave it to you. A lot of you all were asking for templates. So make sure you check out the Kirkpatrick Toolkit to get all of your templates to help you get evaluation off the ground. On October 26th, we've got our Kirkpatrick Refresher course, and of course, 2 more chances to get certified in 2024, one at the end of this month, October, and one in December. Finally, make sure if you are interested in speaking at the Kirkpatrick Summit in 2025, you submit your application to be a speaker. We are on our hunt for our first round of speakers. And of course, if you're not looking to speak, but you really want to come and enjoy the conference and all the magic that we have together, enrollment is now open. So with that, I want to start with Jim. How are you feeling about this series? It's a little bit different than what we've normally done.
Yes.
But for me, it really shows the breadth of the model and its ability to be flexible. What are your thoughts?
Well, 2 things. One is when you say it's a little bit different, we don't just say we've got the model and we're locking it in and closing the door on it and saying that's it. We are hearing from people like the people on this podcast and others that give us ideas or trigger new thoughts. And it is always evolving. The basics of it never change because we got that right the first time. But the usability of it and the nuances and even the new words that you're talking about, a culture of evaluation and things are new and refreshing. But one thing I don't understand I'm not sure I heard you right. Did you say today we're going to be talking about level 1 and level 2? Did you say that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I got to just say, I don't know what else there is to say about it other than you give somebody a survey at the end of class, and then you give them a knowledge test. That's level 1 and 2. What more can there possibly be than those 2 things?
Oof. I mean, there is just so much. And I think, especially with all of the tools we have available to us now, I think we have the ability to be a little bit more creative when it comes to how we are measuring, in this case, anything, period, full stop, but particularly employee engagement. It's, an end of session or, doing surveys, I don't actually think is going to be enough. And so with that, I'm going to just jump into a little bit of some of the things I've been thinking about when I was thinking about model. I guess we'll start with 2 and go to 1. So one of the things, I think the hardest one for me when I was thinking about this to wrap my head around was level 2, because I'm locked into learning. And in the traditional sense, and we're talking about employee engagement, what are we really talking about? And I think it's really measuring are they learning the culture of the organization, right? What are the norms? What are, how are they feeling about age? Do they feel the confidence that they can be part of this organization? Do they have the structures in place to help them then, continue that sense of confidence? But if they're not confident, like people make their impression pretty quickly, right? And as you're building out an employee engagement initiative, you'll know right from the beginning if this is going to go well, based on that sort of data. What do you think, Jim?
Oh, I like that. I heard you use the word confidence a couple times, and I just think that is such a powerful word here, because confidence and engagement, I think, go together, because if they have been engaged, which means people have circled around them and supported them, and they're involved in their work and they understand what's going on, that will boost their confidence. And I think the two of them are on a nice parallel path. And the other thing about this that is I think very confusing to people is they talk a lot about measuring level 2 learning, or measuring employee experience or confidence. What we do is we make sure we're trying to influence it rather than just checking to see if it happens to be occurring. I think that's a big difference and we want people to change their mindset about level 2 and employee engagement with that concept.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a great point, because when we think of it from the learning lens, we think of the formative of, evaluation, like what are the things, like as we're going, and as you're putting together an employee engagement initiative, you may not hit it out of the park at your first go. But if you're waiting until the end to do some sort of evaluation, like how did it go? I mean, that's pretty tough. But if you're doing those checkpoints and those pulses, and this is getting more into level 1, but if you're doing those checks and those pulse checks throughout, you have the ability to adjust as needed. And what I love about actually this conversation is that we're flowing back and forth between level 1 and level 2, because they do go so nicely hand in hand together. And I think, not that I think, I know, these are things that can be happening simultaneously together. So don't worry about spending so much of your resources to have these big structured evaluation plans at those levels.
I love it. And some of the methods, the Kirkpatrick methods that are broader, of course, it was tongue in cheek when I said all you have to do is give them a test. We have a lot of methods that actually help to improve and enhance confidence and engagement.
Mm-hmm. And I think
the more personal, interactive kinds of things do that.
I love how much we're talking about confidence, because I don't think it's talked about when we talk about employee engagement. I think we maybe it's because engagement is more of a buzzword. As a bit, right. For a business, how do we engage our employees? How do we, create more engaging solutions or training? But I think at the crux of it, besides engaging them, I think one of the big keys is giving them the confidence that they made the right choice to be here.
Ooh. Keep going with that. That's terrific.
Yeah. I'm like, let me watch my words. You never know where someone is how someone is going to feel when they finally sign on the dotted line and cross over to the other side of the fence to see if the grass is greener. And you want to ensure that you are providing an experience in which they feel confident they made the right decision.
Wow. And experience is different than just measuring something.
Oh, absolutely.
That's great.
We often want to measure one thing, and we just can't measure the one thing. Not one thing is going to change and cause a big impact. But lots of little things put together is going to. But yeah, I think for confidence, there's always that weariness. And did I make the right choice? Did I not make the right choice? Is this a place where I can really see myself actually growing? Was I sold the Maserati or was I sold the lemon? You know, recruitment and the recruiting of employees is a sales process, right? Where we try to sell the vacation, and then when you get there, you're like, you hope you don't go through a smelly airplane or all of these things in order to get to that vacation. You want to make sure you can see how you get there. So I think, yeah, being able to measure that confidence piece in employee engagement is crucial. And then I think when you're talking about, level one, right, and how are people feeling?
Sure.
If we're only using a survey, I don't think you're going to get a true read, right? And there's all of these other things to take into consideration that one does not think could be measured, but can be measured. So it's something that, our friends will call passive listening, as opposed to a survey, which is active listening. How are we measuring or using, passive listening strategies to also include in our measurement as to how employees are being engaged? Because a lot of things are happening, right? Maybe you have communities, you've got team channels and this and that. Like, there are ways to measure outside of just a traditional survey. It's just about putting the creative hat on and knowing that it's okay if you don't know how to do it. Where I think we fall is that we never want to admit we don't know how to do something.
Ouch.
Because that feels like maybe my job's on the line or I'm not smart enough, you know what I mean? All of these things, none of which are true or likely true. It's just a different, it's just a different lens. And if you can find the people in, a community to be supportive and say, how are you measuring? How are you pulling in this sort of data and then seeing how you can apply it for yourself? That is where that magic can happen. You eventually will gain those skill set.
And Vanessa, what happens when you're talking about confidence and we're talking about experience, engagement, all those kind of things, that builds that inner fire within people. Mm-hmm. If they know they've been treated as a person rather than just as a number, and people have been looking out for them and they have that confidence, they're not afraid to maybe say that maybe this isn't right. Because they know that they have people's back. They know there's a culture of employee experience and confidence. And they can say, wait a minute, let's back up here. We may be missing something. And they have the internal confidence and the internal self-esteem that they know that they're in a safe environment to do that. And the benefits of that we've talked about already. And that would be, in my opinion, there are two kinds of things. One is they made the right decision, as you said, about working here. And they're glad they're in this particular unit or department, but also it helps them do their job better.
Yeah.
And that's a double victory.
That's what we need to recognize. We have to create win-wins. It's not just about the business winning and us not winning. It's the learning side, or, in this case, the HR side, probably. If you can create those win-wins, then it becomes much easier. And sometimes maybe your win isn't as big as maybe you would have liked. But you just need that little proof of concept to continue to go. And I just want to say this one thing where I think we get employee engagement wrong is that we measure our employees engaged, but we never close back the loop. And then our response rates go down and we do this and do that. And it's like, yeah, my response rate is going to go down. I gave you something that is very valuable to me, my time. Time is finite. And I don't know and I gave you my information. I don't know, what was the loop closed there? Like, what did you do with it? And I know, as someone that, number one, has done that, asked for feedback and then never excuse me, never circled the loop or closed the loop. And as someone that is received the feedback, and then I do implement things with I have to, it's a marketing thing. I have to tell people what I did. Some things will be visible and they'll see visible changes, and some things will be behind the scenes. Now, you don't have to give everyone like all the dirty secrets of the politics and the things that, do not need to be shared publicly. But you can just simply say, hey, we hear you. There's a problem here. And we're having discussions behind the scenes. I wouldn't say behind the scenes, but we're having discussions about how we can improve that in the future. Just that simple statement will make me want to do the next survey.
Good point.
Yeah. But I really love this idea and utilizing technology to do passive listening and to be able to collate that data and give you better insight, because there's, and then there's often what you will hear in the survey, which may or may not be true, and then what is actually being said in other arenas or other areas.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a lot of opportunity to be measuring, like, what's happening, what are the questions in your intranet? What are the most frequently asked questions? What are people looking for? A lot of people are asking for, if we have a certain benefit or a certain program in place. You may not get that information from a survey, but if you're passively listening, you can find that data and start to pull it in to start saying, maybe there's something here that we need to look into because it's important to our people.
One thing that I know we do at Kirkpatrick Partners, because I'm part of it, is, and it's a concept I've used for decades. It's called pull up a chair. Mm-hmm. And really what originally it meant to me is if I'm teaching a class, people are present there, and somebody says something, or the group says something, or there's a kind of a spirit of excitement, or the pulse is going weak. I don't know what it is. I pull up a chair. Literally, I used to pull up my chair and say, hey, something's going on here. I'm not exactly sure what it is. And could you guys kind of give me a clue so that we can either exploit it in a positive way or correct it in a way. And I think that you do that in your webinars. We make sure we don't just plow through slides and at the end say, are there questions? There's 5 minutes left. But along the way, if somebody makes a comment, I have seen you and others in our organization, others say, now, wait a minute, a good question just came up. Mm-hmm. And I think what that does is it shows that, you used the words before, that you're there, you're listening, and you're caring by saying, wait, I saw you, I noticed that. And you don't maybe get any data out of that, but you get a lot of good information.
Yeah. I really love what you said. And I love that strategy, the pull up a chair strategy. I think that's a great opportunity to be human in front of another human who may be struggling. For many reasons, they may not want to share, or sometimes they don't want to write it down. But we also have eyes to see, or we have senses. Like, you can sense when someone's maybe frustrated or something like that. And if you can take that opportunity to pull up the chair and just sit side by side, so let's have a conversation. What's going on? And it helps you understand how you can maybe adjust some of your strategies.
And the way I like to use it is, if somebody says something and they have the courage, they're saying something, either typing it in an online program or whatever, and they say something about we really had a terrific outcome. Boy, I'll go after that almost every time. A terrific outcome. You mind unmuting and telling us more about what that looks like, what happened? So even if and you see me do that with you, and you do it with people, you hear a magic word that there's more behind it. You can say, can you tell more? And Vanessa, that's all about being human. And being human is genuine interactions. And I think all that leads to the experience and the confidence that we've been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I've loved this series. I think we've got more of these in store to show you how you can take the model and be flexible and apply it in different ways. I would love to hear more from you. How are you all measuring employee engagement? Through what lens? What strategies are you using? Are you pulling up a chair? Are you practicing passive listening? And in the interim, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We are very close to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so love to hit 1,000 before year's end, which is just very, very soon, rapidly around the corner. I cannot believe we're almost at the holidays. I feel like I just paid my taxes. And so with that, friends, I appreciate your time. Jim, I always appreciate your time and enjoy our conversations. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Bye, everybody.